Productions, the cultural preservation station. Tune in. Tune in. Hey yo. Black education, cultural preservation, tailored BTV, because elevation. Tune into the station, we rockin' the whole nation. That's right, we rockin' the whole nation, prepping new generation for mental activation. Tailored BTV's the new sensation. Stop the hesitation and learn something new. My girl Taylor B's here to show and prove. Terrorist shit. Yeah.
Peace and love, peace and love, peace and love. Welcome to Cultural Reflections. I am your host, Queen B, and this is the show where we bring you positive reflections from the community. I'm honored today to be sitting down with Monica Williams. She's a visionary entrepreneur who has transformed a magazine for local artists into a thriving community and a network of resources. So get ready to be inspired by her journey, her passion, and an incredible reflection that she's making in the community. I want to welcome you to the BTV platform, Miss Monica Williams. Welcome, Queen.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? Queen's up to you, and welcome to Cultural Reflections.
Thank you.
And I want to first thank you for the positive reflection that you're bringing back to the culture. So kudos to you, and thank you for blessing us to being on the platform tonight.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I'm very excited to be here.
Great. Thank you so much. So let's jump right into it. What inspired you to start the magazine for the local artists? And did you ever imagine that it would grow into a full community and a full network?
Actually, no. What inspired me, I had a lot of schoolmates that did music, and I actually got inspired by Angela's Rundown from Run's House. So
Mhm.
as I got older and I started watching Run's House, I would sit and imagine myself doing something of that caliber, like getting out into the industry and doing different things. Um, and I came across one of my classmates. He was doing like a music video up in Atlanta, and I had just recently moved to Atlanta, so I thought that would be the perfect time to just jump out there. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that I knew a lot of people that was in the industry. So I just jumped out there. You know how they say create, don't wait. And
Mhm.
back in like those days, which was I started out in '06, '07, but I really got my big break in 2009. So I was really young and more ambitious with the music industry side of things. So that's really what got my foot in the door. But it evolved because as I was in the industry, I seen how a lot of people got taken advantage of when it comes to contracts. And even with
Mhm.
me, when it came to doing ad spaces and things, like when you don't have the knowledge, a lot of people will take advantage of that. So I started wanting to put that in the magazine, like give them culture, but also give them education, because as an independent artist, you can do a lot of things on your own, and you just have to have the space to be able to do it without someone taking advantage of you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's a great answer. So, Queen, what were some of the earlier challenges that you faced when you first started building a magazine, and how did you overcome those challenges?
So the my first challenges was actually knowing where to start, because when I got out there, I had portrayed it as, you know how they say fake it till you make it. That era was going on a lot. I was faking it till I made it. I went to a lot of events until I got enough articles that I could put out. I didn't know anything about putting together the magazine, so I just started researching it, and I could tell you my first cover I did myself, so it was kind of it was bootleg, but a lot of people engaged with it. With that's what really made me keep going, because even though it was like a bootleg version of a magazine, and I actually did it in Microsoft Word. That's how long ago that was. I started in Microsoft Word doing the documents, and I
Mhm.
just started piecing things together. You can tell I did pay for editing and graphics, but it was still like you could still tell that it wasn't like professionally done. So that was some of the
Mhm.
challenges I had to really overcome, was making sure that I found a good graphic designer, making sure that everything that I was putting out was not copywritten, or making sure that I cited the source of where I got everything from. So most of my challenges was being industry, not really having any resources or knowing about connects. I had to really get out there and network, because just like getting on screen recently, when you come back in, it's kind of like one of those nervousness. So like when I first got started, I was a little nervous with getting it out there and talking to people. So I would just show up to the events, I would get the pictures, I would do a little mingling with people beside me. So I kind of warmed up to
Mhm.
getting in the industry the way I am now. It before, it was more like a little mouse game, going around getting to know people and then jumping out there. Now it's more like, oh, you want to collaborate? That's cool. Let's do that. So
Right.
yeah, that's how I faced a lot. It was mostly overcoming fear of what I didn't
Mhm.
know. So that's how I
Yeah.
overcame a lot of those challenges, just jumping out there and not letting fear stand in the way of what I didn't know.
Mhm. And how would you say you were received in the way of people helping you out with different resources? Did you have people like mentors that you could go to for certain things, or that were
No.
showing you the ropes, or did you have to learn everything on your own?
You know, honestly, I learned everything on my own.
Mm.
In the beginning, I didn't, like I said, I didn't know anyone. I was new to Atlanta. I had just moved to Atlanta from Florida. So um, I was nowhere near the industry. I went to school for fashion design. So it was like a
Mhm.
whole different thing. And it was random. It wasn't something that I planned out. So when I got started, I didn't know anything about mentorship programs. I didn't know any of that.
Mm.
So I think God guided me through the process, because everyone that I linked with, it was just through the
Mhm.
grace of God that they were just good people at the time with most of the stuff that I was doing. Like I would come into contact with producers, I would come in contact with like promoters and um, a lot of uh, industry people like that. So they would they would talk with me with certain things and invite me out to events. But I think it's mostly because I showed up to a lot of places for free. So it helped me get in the door, because I noticed like later a lot of people would ask me how much I charged or whatever. But I thought that at the time when you're going out to cover, you just go out there. So a lot of my getting into the door and people like really rocking with me was because I showed up and I supported.
So I think that's important too, because you showed up, you showed out, you supported them. And in turn, that made it easier for them to support you, and
Right,
that's a lot of what we kinda preach around here on BTV with the royalty rules, with the respect, uplift, love, empower, and support one another. So I think that's amazing, and also to know that it wasn't like you did this in your own neighborhood, so it wasn't like it was people that you grew up with that you had already in your back pocket that you could kinda be like, "Hey,
right,
come do this." You actually stepped out on faith on your own and went out there and went to these events and showed up at these events and showed these artists and different entrepreneurs, "Hey, I'm here. I'm starting this community and I'm going to
hmm,
highlight you." So I think that's great. And that's what this show is about. That's a positive reflection that you're giving back to the culture. So I just want to give you those kudos, Queen, on that, because some people don't have that vision to be able to go
right,
out and do something like that, especially when they're stepping outside of their own community, so to speak, since you moved to a different location and you
right.
started this magazine. So, can you talk a little bit more about that vision that you had to do that in another town?
Yes. So, like I said, I went to school for fashion design, and I ended up off that path. I ended up on a totally different path. A lot of the reason why I did start out with pursuing the magazine was because when I moved to Georgia, I was working for a hotel. I worked for the Courtyard Marriott, and we did a lot of So a lot of things that we did at that hotel, we host like the artists. Say they had to do a concert at Georgia Tech. Like I got to meet T-Pain and other people that came through. So I just when they were more laid back, or when they wasn't in their business mode, because a lot of people when they have so much things going on, they don't have time to really talk to you. And I think a lot of people don't acknowledge the fact that the bigger artists are like the management, they're focused during some of the times that you're trying to interrupt them. So I would just find times to where they didn't look like they were busy and just greet them like, hi, I'm Monica, I have, and I was wondering if you would want to be a part of it. I didn't know anything about the spills, like how they have, a lot of people give you scripts nowadays, but I didn't go by a script. I just naturally, you know, approached, and sometimes I guess you could call it oversharing, but I just wanted to make sure it was authentic and people knew that I was really like, no, not a groupie or a fan. I was really about my business. So
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's important because doing that, it shows people that you are serious about the business and you're serious about your vision. And I think that's what's important. And I think when your heart's in it and you're serious about it like that, people recognize that energy when they also share that energy with
right.
themselves. So that's beautiful. So, can you share any stories or any moments about when you realized your work was making a real impact in the community?
Oh, oh yes, I can. One of my favorite moments where I knew I was making an impact in the community was when I got to do I one of my favorite interviews that I did with Urban Grind was with Shawty Low. He always did this walk for the American Beatties Association. So that's one of my proudest moments because when I did his interview, I started my own diabetes walk. It was the Walkapalooza. So I was able
Wow.
to, link with greats and learn how to do things that would help my community and build as well. Because my dad had diabetes, so the fact that I was able to, collaborate with artists and really get out there and learn how the game went. That's why I said I didn't have mentors, but I did have real authentic people that supported everything that I was doing when they found out that I was really doing some good things for the community. And that was one of my best highlights. Like when I got with him, he I did a write up for him, and it wasn't like I had to reach out and say, "Hey, I'm doing this." I just did the write up. I just pretended like I had already talked with him. I already knew who he was, and I did an article on him, and I sent it over to him. And he loved the article so much he sent me some fresh photos, like fresh new photos. He had just did a photo shoot, and I was like, "Oh, thank you." And after that, and after it got published, he did my cover for me. So he gave me a cover story. I got to go to the studio. I got to interview him, and then I also got to be a part of that great walk. And that actually elevated me into wanting to get more into my community. So that's one of my proudest moments because I didn't have too many artists that actually sat down and worked with me that long. He actually did 3 projects with me. So that hand down was one of my best and proudest moments. And then I've done other things such as doing showcases and stuff. I would go to showcases and I linked with his name was Tez at the time. He worked with Sean Paul from Youngbloods and they would do a showcase. So I would donate a page of the magazine into the issue for all of the up and coming artists. So I was able to give back by just participating and showing up and contributing to the people that was coming up that didn't really have a voice. I feel like that's my place. We have so many people out here that are always celebrated. Celebrities, they're always celebrated. but you have some very talented people out here that don't have a real big voice for people to push them through. And God blessed me with being able to connect with people without having to really, you know, beg for, you know, beg for collaborations and stuff. So I try to make sure that I'm using my platform to give back in that manner because I've been so blessed.
Wow, that's amazing, Queen. And that really does sound like that highlights the essence of your vision.
It does. It
Mhm,
does. You know, to piggyback off of what you asked me earlier about my vision,
mhm.
God gave me this vision when I was younger. I didn't really know what it meant because I would always like have dreams of myself talking in rooms, or I would just think they were dreams, and I never thought that I would be in the music industry or even doing what I'm doing now. I always thought that I would be a famous fashion designer. So the fact that I kept running from my calling, it was like God would just be like, "No, I need you over here." And I would always notice that the projects would never be about fashion. It always would be about learning how to do things and showing others how to do it. So when I learned that I had a gift to do that, that's where I stuck with, because sometimes we just go off our path and we try to force things to happen, and it's that's not what God wants for us. So I just stuck with that with that vision. Even though subconsciously I didn't know I was sticking with that vision, it was like no matter what I did, it always brought me back to urban grind.
Mhm. And that's amazing because I think that's the way that we can tell that we're on the right path.
Hmm.
Because even if you do try to like veer off the path or, do things that you had in mind separately, like you said, there's always something that kind of nudges you back onto that road of what you're doing, or it'll give you a new fresh idea to
Hmm.
get something new out there. And it just kind of brings you back full circle. And then you just get aware of that, you take note and you're like, "Okay. Okay, universe.
Yes.
Okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I got it. Thank you." Right?
Right. Because when I watched your live you did the other day when you were talking about the life path and everything, and I was just thinking to myself like, I've tried to get out the industry so many years. That's why a lot of people don't see me as much, because it's like I'll get in and then it'll feel like I'm too far ahead with the visions I've had. Um, and then I'll start doing something else, and everything I've done in the past, it'll be relevant to what's going on. So I just told myself that I had to stop getting in my head about it. And this time around, I told myself this year that no matter what I felt that I was too far ahead of, that I would just still keep pushing and just let the information go out there. Because I I I admire individuals like you that take that courage and get out here and speak truths about things that most people don't want to hear. So I look to people like you and others to help me stay encouraged to, speak my truth and put that message out there that's placed on me to have. And a lot of times it works out because people really or they'll just hit me up and like, are you coming back out? And that's what makes me know that I'm doing God's work, because sometimes it
Mhm.
doesn't feel that way. It feels like I'm kind of working out of my ego. So I have to make sure that I'm doing what He wants me to do and not what I want to do sometimes.
Right, absolutely. It's very important to find that balance, I think, there. And then just to make sure that you're staying true to the reasons that you started in the first place. So I think that's excellent that you can self-reflect and see those things and really keep your balance there and understand when it's time for you to step away a little bit, like you said. And then, like you said, your vision is so important. And sometimes a lot of the things that we do are ahead of their time. So, while you're out here doing all this stuff, other people are just now catching up to it. And that's when we get those people that come and say, "Well, hey, can I get an interview?" Or, "Hey, can I get a write up?" Or, "Hey, I saw this work that you did and I really like it." And that's a testament to the work that you put in. Eventually, you get your reward that comes back out for that work, you know?
Right, right. And I love to get the feedback about the things I'm doing, because a lot of times, especially it seems like in the educational space, it's a lot of educators and it's a lot of people that they have a lot of knowledge as well. So you don't really know where you fit in the spectrum of trying to get the information out of there without being boring. You want it to be fun because you want people to take it in. So
Hmm.
that's been something great for me, because all the things I've been working on lately is basically to educate but make it fun, because
Right.
who doesn't want to have fun sometimes?
And you got to put fun in it because, you got to keep the balance. And it's like, you got to feed people a little bit of fun with the medicine. So
Right.
you're giving medicine, like you're giving good positive resources and good networking skills, and like really making sure that we're exposing each other to new audiences. But at the same time, you do want to have fun with it. I mean, we are here to have fun also. So I think it's important to find that balance. So, guys, make sure you guys are going to check Monica out. If you want to get with her for the magazine, it's info@grindcitymarketplace.store. You can email at info@urbangrindmag.org. You can follow her on IG at Professor MWS. Okay, so make sure you guys reach out to Monica. Let's talk about now Grind City. Let's talk about the transition, because we know you started Urban Grind Magazine and that was the base foundation of everything. And then
Yeah.
you did a transition into the Grind City. So talk about that transition. Talk about what Grind City is and what you were trying to accomplish through that transition.
Okay, sure. So Grind City actually has always been Grind City, which is the reason why everything is so easy for me now, because I've been building it on it for more than a decade. For
Yes.
it to be where it is now, it started out as a little seed and it just blossomed into, this big community. Originally, Urban Grind Magazine was Urban Grind Magazine. It was just out there. I was having fun with it, and then Grind City was an actual store I had in Stone Mountain. I turned it into Grind City because a lot of times I do feel like when you're on your grind and you're young and it's fresh, I wanted to have like the whole street where I was trying to bring I was bringing in street fashion with culture. So like I said, I went to school for fashion design. I always wanted a clothing store. So I thought, what better way than to be able to sell clothes in the store and also sell the magazine as well. So I just wanted a central location for all everyone that I network with to be able to come in, and um, the store was in the strip mall, which is it was this big building. My brother, he painted everything. We had like this whole city around, like how you see the graffiti. We did that
Yes.
type vibe. So I wanted to be, like how people do red carpets. The whole point
Yes.
was like when people come to the store, in the back I had my office. So we'll sit and talk business, but I also have them like take pictures in the store to create that culture of, we're out here, we're out here getting it, that vibe. So that's where Grind City stemmed from. It's like when you're city life is fast paced, you're getting to the money, you're not thinking about anything, you're just moving and you're creating motion, you're making things happen. So that was the vibe of Grind City. But as I started throughout my years and I was like not creating issues for it because of all the transitions I was making throughout life with and having kids and everything, I was thinking like, okay, magazines come and go. Because by the time I started doing Urban Grind again, people wasn't in print; they were on digital platforms now. So I was like, how can I convert um, the magazine over to make it more of a movement versus just a
Mhm.
publication? Because publications die down, movements don't. So that was the mindset behind that, was really trying to make sure that it had longevity, because everyone always told me about the name, but I didn't want it to be just street anymore. I wanted it to be more corporate street, like bringing like everything you learn from being in the streets to, moving over to doing business better business. That's what I would
Yes.
call it. So that's how that happened because I'm gonna be honest. Like I said, I bootlegged a lot of stuff in the beginning.
Hmm.
So
Well, that's how you get the vision out there.
yes. So
Hmm.
what as time started going on, I started noticing that it was the cycle of everything was good, it was getting bootleg. Everything was good, it was getting bootleg. And I was like, how can I start making sure that I'm showing up the way I'm supposed to and my stuff looks more professional
And
and
more legitimate. Yeah.
and more legitimate and it don't look like I'm a
Hmm.
scammer and out here just doing things because you know where you start it's not always where you end up if you don't
Absolutely.
nurture. I didn't nurture my baby, so that's why I took the time out to like revamp and make sure that when I did come back, it was going to be bigger and better than before because I owe it to the beginning. Like in the beginning, everything was great. Everyone was interacting, everyone was getting the knowledge, and it was people that was being birthed through that movement. So I wanted to make sure that everything that I'm doing now is going to help in the same capacity, if not greater, than what I was doing before.
Absolutely. And I love what you said. I just want to double down on that. You have to learn, evolve, and grow and understand power. And you guys know I love acronyms around here. So I call that having a leg up. A lot of
Right,
times people want to keep you stuck in situations, or sometimes we get stuck in situations ourselves. But you have to understand that every experience you have is a lesson for you to learn, evolve, and grow from it. You're allowed to do that. And once you do that, then you do understand your power. You understand the position and understand the circumstances of that situation, so now you can move forward,
right,
with a leg up. And that's what I call a leg up: learn, evolve, and growing and understanding your power. And it sounds like you did that. And what that did was it helped you evolve the Urban Grind magazine, like you said, into Grind City, into a full blown community. So now that we talked about that, before I talk more about Grind City, you talked about your family involvement with this. Talk about the home business balance. Talk about being a mother and kind of being an entrepreneur and starting all of this. How did you find balance between home and business?
you don't really find home balance. You
You
I'm
just
still
do it, right?
I'm I promise you, I'm still trying to figure it out. And when I ask others, they tell me the same thing. But from the start of them being young and little to now, because I see
Mhm.
so many women that's pregnant and just out there moving around,
Yes.
you have no choice but to get your homes together. If you have women out here that's doing it and they're showing up pregnant, and I know what it means to be pregnant, it's like you don't have an excuse to be saying why you're not doing something when you
Right.
blatantly looking at other people doing what you want to do. So that's what keeps me encouraged is the reflection of what you want to do and people showing you that it's getting done whether you're participating or not. So when it comes to my home life, I feel like in the beginning, because my kids were so young, I had that mom guilt. And as I got older and I started watching others, and to be honest, I would say I'm 43 now, so I really didn't catch on till late. So the mom guilt never really left. I just knew that eventually, if I was going to be proud of what I started, I needed to really finish strong. So I had to, sit with my kids. They're older now. One's both two of my children have, graduated from school. So that makes it a little bit better. I have one,
Congratulations, because that is
yes,
a feat.
right. So I have one high schooler left. So that really helped me, especially in this
Uh-huh.
season, because for I probably say about the past year and a half, my kids been telling me we getting older now. We're gonna be moving around. I said, oh, well, I got time to really,
Right.
do things. I didn't want to be that parent that got stuck being sad because the kids left the nest. So I said,
Yeah, the
I'm
empty nest syndrome.
gonna. So I said, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
that mom that takes the opportunity to relive her dreams. So that's the approach. I started planning. I stopped talking about what I was going to do more so, because for I'll say for 3 years I was doing things, but I was doing more talking than I was doing. And I think it was because I was kind of paralyzed with like really getting back into getting on the camera, doing interviews, going to events. I was doing it, but I was picking and choosing what I wanted. Now
Mhm.
it's more you're buckling down, you're going to create a schedule and you're going to stick to it type vibe. So, um, my son, he since he's in school, I stick to the Monday through Friday, and the weekends. I told myself I'll rotate my weekends. Like I'll work on a weekend, and then I'll give myself off a weekend, and then when he has breaks, I'll take breaks. So that's basically how. I don't know if other peers do that, but I felt like it worked because I'm able to do a Monday, Wednesday, Friday type office day schedule. Tuesday, Thursday, I create. So I had to figure out what was going to make me happy and not make me feel like I was working so much and overwhelmed, and what was going to help me be present for my son as he approached, being a high schooler. Because, those are the days where they're out there wilding and ready to
Yes, I know.
ball,
Yeah.
or, you know, extracurricular activities. So
Yes, the extracurricular activities that they get themselves into. I am aware of the teenage high school years.
right, right, right. So I had to really I had to plan this time. Before, I think I was winging it a lot, and it worked for
Mhm.
me. It worked. And when you're a free spirit, you kind of move around, but you move around and don't think about the consequences of being free. So it's
Right.
like a disciplined freedom.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think that's cool. I think that's a great answer. And I think people can relate to that because I think as women, a lot of us have to make those decisions and those choices about how we approach handling our family and making sure that they have everything they need, including the time that we spend with them, not just monetarily. Because I think people also get
Right,
that mixed up too in our community nowadays. It's not about just throwing money at your kids or putting somebody on child support and all that kind of stuff. A lot of
right.
that stuff is actually more detrimental to our community. So really the best thing that we can do for our kids, you guys, is spend time with them and let them know that we love
Hmm.
them and that we're interested in the things that they're interested in and that we're going to support them
Right.
and be disciplined with them. Show them discipline and show them when they're doing right, show them when they're doing wrong. So I think you answered that brilliantly. And I think it's such a balance, like you said, you never really find that balance. You just continue to work toward finding that balance
Mhm.
with home life things. So I think that's pretty cool. So let's get back into Grind City. So now we've transformed Urban Magazine into Grind City. So talk about some of the new approaches that you're taking in Grind City. Talk about some of the different avenues that you're opening up now as far as your TV shows, your podcasts, and all of that.
Okay, yes. So, because I am a creative first. I had to distinguish the difference between multiple hustles and building out something that has longevity. And
Mhm.
before, I guess that's where grinders come from. Because I have like different levels of what grinders are. Um, I was a grinder in the beginning because it wasn't nothing I couldn't do to make money. So it was easy for me to like do a lot of things. But in the beginning, when you think of when you're on your grind, you're just out here, you're not thinking about I need to put this money aside, I need to invest in this. You're just making money. And it's kind of like having a job. You get paid, you go spend money, you have fun, and it's like this consistent cycle of
Mhm.
that I do this, I spend that. So as I got older, hence now, I had to learn I had to learn that it doesn't work like that. When I started learning about structure, systems, and making sure I had certain things in place, I had to figure out where everything fit, and that's where Grind City was birthed. Because Grind City isn't just, like I said, a magazine, it's a movement, it's a community of people that have multiple talents, everyone that have a vision that's similar. So Seers podcast, because I do get visions and I've had all these messages that I put out there, I didn't really want to mix it with Urban Grind magazine, because sometimes in the urban culture, if you deal in tarot or you're like into the certain side of spirituality, sometimes it's not accepted. It's more accepted now than when I first started. So I started Sears podcast in like 2020, I want to say, because I had just started my spiritual journey. And for those that go back and listen to the podcast, when I first started, I was on a healing journey. So I put out there that not only was I trying to heal myself, I hope that my stories and some of the things that I talked about help others heal through it, because of all of the things that I went through with tower moments and going through transitioning from having a weight lifted off me from trauma to accepting my part I played in those situations. Because a lot of times we, and don't beat me up, community, but I'm just gonna speak a little truth right here.
Speak your truth.
Um,
Speak your truth.
a lot of times we get angry with other people for what they do to us, but if we were in a space where we wasn't distracted or we were at our higher self, some things wouldn't happen to us. And it's not God's fault. We create our own choices. So a lot of my experiences over the past 5 years, I've blamed a lot of people on my own trauma, but I was a participant in the things that happened to me. So I had to take more accountability for that. And on the platform, I would speak that into, my community. So I just wanted to make sure that I was bringing in everyone under the community, but kind of keeping it separate, because everyone's not on that level to where they want to talk about, taking accountability or, you know, self self what is it?
Self reflection and
Yeah,
self
self reflection,
mm,
and just making sure that I'm showing up for myself. Self awareness. That's what I was trying to say.
yeah.
Self awareness, like being aware of the things that we bring on ourselves because we open the door for it. And that was one. Like I did like these 3-part series, and you'll probably see I do a lot of things in threes. So I had self awareness. I want to say I had it was just a step of being aware, taking accountability of that awareness, and getting through it. It was like a 3-part series of where I talked about why I needed to take accountability for the things that I was doing, what I was doing to heal myself through those traumas, and what I was going to work on. Like every time a message came, I would create a series around it and try to break it down to where it wasn't overwhelming to the audience. And I felt like as long as I had those channels and it was being promoted through Urban Grind and through myself, that as people come into the community, whether they are, grinders, seers, or whatever, they all can, kind of connect and see where everyone fits with each other. And
Mhm.
even though everyone's kind of different, we're all still the same. We all still part of the urban culture. We all still have things that happen in our life that you know it's crazy. So um, the Grind City channel, I'm able to drop, things in there. And a lot of people, they bounce between all channels. And then that's one of the things that I'm bringing back. June 1st was when I stepped into my spiritual journey, 2019. So
Mhm.
June 1st is where I'm stepping into my new journey, is a more aware spiritual person individual, because I've been able to like reflect, and I'm able to really accept who I am at this point, because it's more of a confidence thing. I would say I'm more confident in the skin I'm in when it comes to being able to deliver the messages and helping people through certain things that before I would be nervous to say, because I didn't want to hurt someone's feelings, or I didn't want them to take my message the wrong way. So that's one of the projects that I have been working diligently on. I've created some workbooks and some affirmation cards, and it's specifically for Grind City. It's, it's gearing towards urban culture because I, like you said, it's more digestible. It's, bringing in something that we haven't. I'm not going to say that we haven't seen because we see things all the time, but something that my community haven't seen and
Hmm.
something that can help them because it's kind of like bridging the gap between being a spiritual being and being a person of the city. Because being in the city, you gotta watch out for so many different types of energy. So you want to make sure that you're on top of your game. And a lot of times we're not taught that. We're not taught that um, there's different levels of you know, high level conversations, there's different levels of that. And if you're not in
Hmm.
tune with it, you a lot of things could happen, you know? And that's why I'm bringing Seers podcast back because of some of the events that's taken place since I've been back in the in on the scene. And then I have Grind City Community College. I just started that last year, working towards that. It was going to launch last August. I had a mentor. I did that. That's one thing. That's one thing that I've started. I did start getting mentorships and I started becoming a part of community. So if you're if you're stuck, that is a good thing to do because people can help you through it. I would have never had Grind City Community College if I wouldn't have had my mentor to help me last year. A lot of people don't want to invest in a coach or a mentor, but sometimes it's good because um, when you're trying to elevate to a certain status, you want to make sure that you're doing things the right way. Sometimes research doesn't help when someone already have the blueprint. You can, really just make it your own. But
Hmm.
Grind City Community College, when I was in school, I learned about home economics. So that's one thing I'm trying to bring back to the community is home economics because a lot of us we don't know how to budget. We don't take investing serious. So I want to get into things where it's not just about business, it's about how you can start your home life and build and not be in debt, not suffering or struggling because you don't want to take advantage of all the opportunities of that's out there when it comes to knowledge and I've been guilty of that. So all the things that I'm bringing is all the things that I lacked, and I didn't have the help to really get myself back on track because over the years
Hmm.
I didn't have no one telling me, Monica, you need to save money. Monica, you need to invest. I didn't know anything about investing until like 4 years ago. So I kind of feel like I'm behind when it comes to certain things, but I'm grateful because I've never had to like really just worry about a lot of stuff, but I feel like I would have been further when it comes to money, when it comes to Grind City being bigger than what it is. But because I didn't have the knowledge and, it's divine timing, not my timing, I know that everything I've learned over the past 5 years is why I'm able to create Grind City Community College or have Seers podcast because I couldn't put anything out there without the experience. So,
Right. You
um,
need that experience to bring you to who you are today.
right,
Um, yeah.
right. So that's those two are my main things that I'm putting out there. And I have a book. It's called How to Build Your Business on a Shoestring Budget, and that's because
Cool.
a lot of times I don't have a budget. I don't have a budget, and sometimes I go over budget, so I
Right.
won't make the money that I want to make. So
Hmm.
if when you think of a shoestring budget, you think of barely having it, and a lot of people tell you to look at your funds as it's not your funds; it's like your business funds.
Hmm.
So instead of us saying like our money's ours, we're making sure that it's allocated and going to where it needs to go first. So if you have that mindset of I don't have money, you're going to budget more because you don't have the money to spend. But if you just have money sitting and you're able to just utilize it without consequences, you're going to spend that money and be mad about it later. So that,
Right.
that's the whole purpose. Because in business, that's one of the downfalls of the urban community. We create these businesses, but we don't run them like they should be ran.
Yeah. And we also have to remember to continue to support each other's businesses.
Right, right,
So it's a big cycle with that, I think. But I think that's beautiful. I think you have a really good vision of how you want everything to be. And you have really put the work in over the past decade to cultivate your company to where it is today. So I think that's interesting. And I also want to give you kudos on what you were saying about the conscious, like the street mentality, kind of meeting that conscious side. I do think it's really a struggle with the community still. And I think we do have to start getting back into who we are and understanding our individual frequency, which is a lot of work that I'm doing over here on BTV to get people to really understand who they are, like you said, and then accept who you are, and then realize that everyone is different and has a different energy and has different positive strengths and weaknesses that they bring to the table.
right,
And as a community, when we employ royalty rules, that's respecting, uplifting, loving, empowering, and supporting each other. Once we start doing that, then that's the way that we build these communities, because communities aren't just created, they're nurtured
right.
one relationship at a time. And this is what you have cultivated over here at Grind City. So I just want to really commend you, Queen, for all the work that you're doing. I also want to mention Queens Up to you, because everything that I've heard you say is what the Queens Up mentality is all about. Queens Up is queens understanding their power, their position, and their purpose. And I think that you have brilliantly demonstrated how Queens Up, how we should be carrying out the Queens Up mantra and the Queens Up royalty rules. And I think that it's excellent. You are creating the positive change because you dared to step out on faith and step out on your own to do that. So great job. I want to ask you, what do you have coming up? I know you said June 1st, you're going to be doing some things to commemorate your anniversary of your spiritual journey. What are some of the things that you have envisioned for Grind City coming up toward the end of this year or toward next year?
So one of the things that I've been working on, and I'm dead set on as long as God have me. I want to kind of create a Grind City pop up where I can start really networking and connecting with individuals in person, because I feel like even though we're on social media and we're able to connect, it's nothing like that in person connection. You're able to feel people's energy, you're able to really get a gist of who people are and actually just vibe together. On social media, we're able to vibe, but not as much as it would be in person. So I definitely want to kick off some in person events, even for Grind City Community College. I want to do like some in person trainings that we can sit and it's a safe space for people to say, yeah, I don't know this, because a lot of times in the industry now, there's things that we don't know and people criticize you for it, or they act like you're so behind when we all learn at our own pace and we're growing. It's like I've been there. I've been that judgmental person where I didn't understand why people were over here when they should be doing this. But sometimes because you're more advanced doesn't mean that that person is. And I've learned that it's better for me to surround myself with greats than to be afraid of them, because you can some even though you don't think you're intimidated by people that have a whole bunch of knowledge, sometimes it is intimidating because you get up there and you don't feel like you know as much, so you're like, oh, what can I bring to the table? But A lot of times just surrounding yourself in that circle and um, being able to tap into that higher energy, you're able to unlock some levels of thinking that you didn't get to unlock before. So yeah, that's
Great.
one of the things that I'm working on is tapping in with my community because I know so many great people and it's just amazing how quiet we are. So I feel like if I notice a lot of times with me when I step out, I see others step out, you know? So
Yeah.
I feel great about that. And lately I've been, showing up more and I told myself this time around, even if I take a break, I'm still going to be consistent with showing up because you can disappear and people going to get the feeling of you're going to show up and disappear. So the more you stay
Mhm.
consistent with being present and being in the community, you your community won't feel let down. I feel like and that just could be me because sometimes I feel like I let my community
No, that's
down when
not
I
just
don't.
you.
Yeah,
That's
when
not
I
just
don't
you. I
show up.
Yeah, I feel that too. I feel that pressure of that myself with BTV and everything that I do here. You feel guilty when you don't show up, you know,
Yes, it's
the
and then when you
community.
show up, you're like, "Hey, how are y'all
You're
doing
like,
today?"
Do y'all miss me? Like, I'm back. What's up?"
Right,
You kind of feeling the temperature and seeing how people are. But the one thing about it, the royalty rules, and we just got to remember that we all are going through different tides. We all
right,
have times where we're in and when we're out, like I was just discussing, like you said on that live. And we all have to really respect that energy of ourselves and respect that space that we're in during the time and do things that you can do as you can do them. So, not to put too much pressure on yourself, but just make small steps for yourself in small increments
right,
when you're in one of those out tides, just to make sure, like you said, that you're being consistent and still showing up. So I think as long as you're doing that and you're keeping yourself in front of people, at least a little bit to let them know, hey, I may not be as active with the podcast right now, but you're going to be seeing more
right, right.
blogs go up. You're going to be seeing more of this go up, just to kind of stay in tune with the people. And I think that's great that you want to do the pop up because, like you said, I think a lot of the times, social media is great. Obviously, it's a great tool that we can use to network and different things like that. But sometimes you don't want to put all of your eggs out on social media. You
Right.
don't want to, all the conversations that you need to have with your community can't go on social media because you can't be giving your blueprint away to the enemy, and this thing that we are
Exactly.
doing called life is art, and it's not just an expression, it's a connection. It helps us heal each other and it can spark revolution. And like you said, people, when we get together, you might have wisdom and knowledge on certain things, and then I might bring certain wisdom and knowledge on certain things. So it's not about, how much we all know because we're all still learning.
Right.
None of us know everything. It's impossible to know everything. So you just bring the things that you do know and the strengths that you do have to the collective. And when we all do that, now we're setting the bar. We're setting our balanced ability to respond. We're setting our royalty rules. We're being on code with queens up and kings up with each other. And that's what it's all about. So we have to continue to make sure that we show up, like you said. We have to learn, evolve, grow, and understand our power, get a leg up. And all of our stories that we share become a part of those cultural reflections that we leave behind. So I
Absolutely.
just want to make sure that we end on that high note and to make sure that everyone knows, just show up. That's all you got to do. So just show
Yes.
up. So, Queen, any last words that you want to give to the audience before we get out of here?
Yes, they are. We're in May, and I have this thing that I've been doing for the past couple of years. It's called Manifesting Miracles in May because a lot of times we have so many big dreams that we're trying to live and so many things that we're doing that a lot of times it seems unrealistic. But we're stepping out on faith in May to kick off our manifestations because if you don't believe, no one else is going to believe in what you're trying to do. So I have this thing where it's called Profess Your Allegiance to the Grind. Only you can do that because the grind don't stop, we do. So I hope you all are having a great year, and I hope that you step into this month with courage and confidence in the things that you're doing, and like I'm trying to do. Not trying, I am. I'm stepping
You
into
are
this
doing.
month manifesting some big miracles, and I want to make sure that everyone else is doing the same.
So I love that, Queen, and I love that title, Manifested Miracles in May. And it's not a better time to do that because May denotes dramatic changes because it is a 5 universal month. So it denotes dramatic changes, increases in your career possibilities, new opportunities, networking, being popular, dealing with the public and all of that, business, travel, career, sexual attraction from the opposite sex. All of that is what May brings. So whatever you're trying to manifest, make sure you
Yeah,
get with
this
the
is the
queen.
month to do
That's
it.
right. This is the month to do it. The energy has changed. We're on an end tide, and we need to be using all of this energy that we can to at our disposal because you want to utilize it while it's here. Because when it goes out, it goes. So I
Yes,
think that's excellent. I think it's brilliant. And I really, again, I want to thank you, Queen, for coming on Cultural Reflections. This has been a pleasure and an honor. Your story is a beautiful reminder that when we invest in our culture and our creativity and our communities, we create spaces where everyone can rise. And you have done that, Queen. So thank you so much for being here on Cultural Reflections. You're welcome to come back anytime when that book drops. I expect you to be back on this show. Um,
yes,
so I Yep. So I want to thank you so much for being here on BTV. And I want to say queens up and kings up to you, to the Urban Grind family, and to the Grind City family, kings and queens up. Royalty rules, and make sure that you take care of one another. Peace. Queens up in your hood.